So with that, I'm going to turn to Dan Brennan, Director of Maine Housing. Dan's been around a long time, and I say that in a good way because I think when you become a director of a organization like Maine Housing, the fact that you've done so many other things, I think really arms you not only with information but the right way to do that. And to keep Dan on his toes, we have his board member Treasurer Perry here, um, just in case Dan goes off the rails. So Dan, thanks for being here. I think available and affordable housing is probably going to make one of the priorities of our report. So if you can give us an update.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. It's so good to see you. We've been working together for a long time, and I really appreciate the opportunity to say hi to everybody today. I see a lot of new faces, and so for those of you not familiar with Maine Housing, we are a quasi-independent agency of the state. We've been around 55 years or so, and our job is really two things. One is we're an affordable housing bank. We're a 3.2, $3.3 billion bank. And we lend to developers to build affordable housing, multifamily affordable housing projects, as well as provide financing for first-time home buyers. And that's where most people know us as. But in addition to that, we also administer several $100 million of federal and state dollars for everything from homeless shelters to rental assistance to heating assistance. And so we're one organization here in Augusta. We get about 180 people that work for us. I have a fantastic board, I'm going to tell you, and that's not just because Joe is on the call, but very well supported by the board. We're also not a political organization. I think that's very important to me personally. Is we've found that over the years we get support both from Republicans and Democrats and independents, and that has shown over the years. And so that's very important. So that's a little bit of who we are and what we do. I'll talk a little bit about affordability and availability because it's lacking throughout the entire state. And I'm going to drop into the chat our outlook report for 2026 and encourage you to download it. It's on our website, and it's basically our opportunity to give a snapshot to everybody about what we're seeing going into every year. And there might be some good information in here. I also have a very robust planning and research department that can be of assistance to you for your area of the state as you look ahead to put this report together. I'll talk a little bit about the problem. We all know what the problem is, right? We don't have enough housing units for demand isn't matching up with supply, and that's a historic thing that has been going on for decades. Just a couple of nuggets that are kind of chilling when you think about it. On the home ownership side, affordability, and this rings true for all the counties that are in the Eastern Maine Development Corp area. The income needed to afford a medium price house has doubled from 2020 to 2024, right? So what was always a difficult thing for people to afford their first home and get into housing has just the problem has doubled in the last 4 years. And we know why this has happened. Obviously, Maine's a very attractive place to be. It's a beautiful, you have some of the most beautiful parts in the entire state in your region, and people from away are coming here. We're now an in-migration state. But that has also meant that people can sell their house in Brookline and move pretty much anywhere they want in Maine and buy in cash. And that's particularly difficult, and it's stressed the home ownership affordability issues. On the renter side, what used to be a rental affordability problem that really was in the $35,000 to $40,000 annual income range is now $75,000. So we're seeing affordability problems and availability problems moving into what traditionally has been what we call our middle class or middle income. And there has been great debate in the legislature about how to address that. How do you approach that? Do you address that with zoning and land use reforms and regulatory reforms, or do you deal with it through money and subsidy? And I would argue that there's a good argument to be made on both fronts. So we have a particularly stressful problem with both home ownership and renter affordability. We hired an organization several years ago, HR&A Associates, and you've heard the number 84,000 units needed statewide. And what we've been doing there, working with Department of Economic and Community Development, as well as the new Maine Office of Community Affairs, is to provide tools for municipal and county leadership about how you at the local level can dig in and begin to address the housing issues in your areas. And so I would encourage you to engage with the folks over at the Maine Office of Community Affairs, and really, there's a lot of momentum that's building there to help at the local level. At the state level, what we can do is we can advocate for dollars. We can run programs to get our affordable side done. But the problem is much, much bigger than just what MaineHousing can do. Um, so that's a little bit of who we are. That's a little bit about what the problem is. I'm not telling anybody anything you don't already know. But what are we doing about it? Okay. And I mentioned before about being apolitical, but no one can deny that Governor Mills and the legislature in the last 7.5 years have really stepped up. And we're seeing, what was unheard of before in the housing world, maybe not so much this session, but earlier in this administration, unanimous votes from the legislature to support the work of MaineHousing and give MaineHousing funding that we need to keep our programs going. The budget that is, from what I understand, is going to hit the floor of the House and the Senate maybe today, has significant funding for affordable housing development to the tune of $37.5 million to help our multifamily programs, $14 million to help people who are homeless and people who are aging in their homes to keep them safe in their homes, and money for our homeless shelters all throughout the entire state. And so we feel blessed that the legislature, even though they tend to battle one another and will continue to battle one another, unfortunately, in the next week and a half, or maybe next week, housing is making out okay, and we're grateful for that. So we're getting the funding that we need to keep our programs going, which is critical. But we're also seeing the legislature step up and make changes to land use and zoning and some of the things I talked about before to help municipalities with local decisions that are so critical to getting housing development done and having housing developers come forward and want to work in your communities. My message to the next administration, the next governor, is let's keep this momentum going. It doesn't matter to us what party you're in. It matters to us that the money keeps flowing to us, and we want to prove that we're trying to be there for everyone in Maine. I think I'll stop there, Lee. I could probably go on for another hour or two, but I know we want to keep this high level.
So you mentioned the rural affordable housing rental program. How
Yeah,
successful has that been?
that's been tremendously successful. So this is an example of an idea that we've had here at MaineHousing for most of my time here, but we never had the money to operationalize it. And what this does is it provides a funding vehicle for developers who don't want to get involved in the more complicated federal tax credit side of our business. Um, it means less lawyers. It means easier closings. It means smaller, more manageable projects. These rural affordable rental housing program basically provides a subsidy and some debt to developers to develop housing for people at 80% of area median income, with rents no higher than 80% of the income levels set by HUD. So that allows us to get to a little bit higher income group than we have in the past. It's been tremendously successful. Um, with this funding that hopefully the legislature provides for this budget, we'll be able to reoffer that program. I was just looking very, very quickly at the production. There's in your area, been a couple of projects, a few projects in Waldo County, but I don't think we've done very much elsewhere throughout the Eastern EMDC area. And we can certainly work to engage more
Yeah.
interest if that is if you
How,
want to
how,
talk more about
how
that.
do we ramp that up? How do we make that happen?
Yeah, we can have probably, Lee, we'd be happy to have a deeper conversation with you and your team about how to do that. Bottom line, I mean, you've got people here on the call. I know Mike is very much involved in that area. We can kind of get at why developers in that area haven't gone after the program. Maybe they haven't been successful. I haven't looked at those numbers yet, but it's such a critically important program, particularly focused on rural Maine, that has been successful. And so we have a track record to show people who may have been skeptical before.
Yeah. Well, EMDC, Bangor Housing, and the Bangor Chamber, I think I can speak for everyone. We'd be interested in kind of mobilizing people to educate them and to make this opportunity a reality.
Yeah, I would also throw out that we've been working with the Genesis Community Loan Fund to be advocates for us, again, statewide for trainings, outreach, and so we can also make connections there.
Good. That sounds great. Mike, do you have anything you want to add on behalf of Bangor Housing?
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, I think, Dan's right. I mean, a lot of the resources have really gone sort of Augusta South, but I think with kind of what I was saying with us and Penquist, we're now actively trying to just do more stuff. So it's not that MaineHousing hasn't directed stuff this way. Dan's not going to fund a project if people don't apply. So I think the stuff that we've done recently, MaineHousing has supported it 110%. They've just allocated us a couple projects to help address some of the homelessness issues. So now that we're actively doing stuff, MaineHousing's been right on our back, just helping us the whole way. So it's a great trend to keep that going.
Great. Thank you, Mike. And Joe Perry, board member, anything you want to add?
Well, I just wanted to mention to Dan, I wanted to remind Lee, I also serve on his board. No, it's a delight serving on Maine State Housing's board. It's a perspective I never had as a legislator. And I just see the scope of all the good work they do. It's really impressive. Almost no vacancies of 180 plus employees, one of the best places in Maine to work, great leadership. And Dan is right. I'm an ex officio member of the board. The folks who are appointed for their expertise are really fantastic.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Dan, any final words? I think we will be following up with you on some of that.
I would encourage that, Lee. I would welcome that. And then again, to anyone on the call who is not as familiar with us or would like some type of outreach, we really do like to get out and meet with you and talk with you. So however we can be of assistance, we'll be happy to do so.
Great. Well, thanks, Dan. Thanks for everything you do.
Thanks, Lee. Good to see you.